Welcome to another exciting episode of Langston's World. I'm your host, the Great Beard of Knowledge, and we have a great show for you today. It is straight out of low cash, meaning that we all know y'all are broke. Everybody listening to this is probably broke. Rich people who are tuning in,
oh my God! Wow!
You're in the minority anyway. You're like 1%. Like, we live in a country where 20% of Americans control 70% of the wealth.
Let me hear you say, that ain't right.
If you're the wealthy people who listen, good luck, man. Send me some money. If you're everybody else, tune in because we're going to stop being broke real quick. Last episode, just so you know, somebody reached out to me and was like, it was my dad. Somebody reached out to me and was like, yo, I don't understand how this last episode fit in, right? I guess he was feeling like, I was talking to him. You're not fired. Here's the deal with the whole family thing. You can't get wealthy with family that ain't on the program. You for damn sure can't stay wealthy. I'll give you a few fictional examples. You got The Godfather, Fredo, you got The Lion King, Scar, and you got Black Panther, Killmonger. These were all empires that were either destroyed or jeopardized because they had the wrong people in the clique. And if you want to get wealthy, it's going to be hard with the wrong family, but you definitely ain't going to stay wealthy with the wrong people around and at the helm. So let's just keep it 150,000 trillion. Getting off the plantation, creating generational wealth really comes down to making sure that the next generation that's going to be wealthy are the right people in the right places to get that paper the way you want it. So let's keep it a buck. Let's keep it a $1.50. Now, the wealth gap in America is absolutely bananas.
Your article notes that though black people make up 13% of the U.S. population, they hold less than 3% of the nation's wealth.
And I live in the capital of the wealth gap. And I know people are listening like, oh man, the wealth gap. Like, wealth gap being the difference between the amount of net resources and assets black people and people of color have versus their white counterparts. And a lot of people are like, oh man, it's probably bad in the South, man. A lot of poverty and impoverished parts of the world. Nah, man, the king of wealth gap is Boston, right? In 2016, I believe it was Boston, but might be all of Massachusetts, was crowned for having the greatest wealth gap in the country. And we would think it would be places where racism is more overt, where policies are more like unapologetic with how they're like designed to screw over people of color. But Boston, they are really on some
G14 classified. Now, why don't you and I take a walk and I'll fill you in.
Methodology for keeping the wealthy and the poor. And the first thing I want to address this episode, the number one we're going to jump into as we get into the straight out of low cash, everybody is broke, man. Let's stop the games. Like, why are we pretending? Chances are, considering that the median net worth of black people in Massachusetts is $8, the average brown person you're talking to, their life is going to be a little financially complicated. And we fight against these ideas. We'll be like, oh, no. Don't be talking about how broke we are. Don't say that we're broke. Don't put us down. Don't down talk black people. Nah, man, let's keep it real, black people. Like, this whole keeping our economics in the closet is the reason why the wealthy continue to get wealthy, because we don't even know how bad we all have it. If we all just looked up one day and went, damn, we are all broke, we'd have a chance at changing the system. But as long as there's a few bougie Negroes in the crowd, it's like,
hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around. With your broke ass.
well, speak for yourself, brother. I got money. We ain't never gonna get where we need to go, because then that leads to everyone else in the room going, well, maybe the systems aren't stacked against us. Maybe I'm not working hard enough.
Child, please. No. I want. Stop. Don't do that.
The truth is, the system is screwed, and the sooner we all come together and acknowledge that we're all suffering economically, the better we'll all be. Until we lock in on the reality of the situation, there will be zero changes. As long as we're pretending like everything is fair, as long as we're pretending like the only thing preventing us from having generational wealth is us not trying hard enough, we're going to continue to suffer being on the wrong side of a wealth gap.
Ooh, boy, it's hard to be woke. It's hard to be woke.
2, fronting and stunting. Wow. It's amazing how this generation of millennials has learned to front and stunt in a way that they've basically convinced themselves that they're not even financially screwed up. Like millennials now, what do they value more than anything? Paying down debt, but traveling more than anything. And I think that traveling is a derivative of wanting to have that Insta life, like where you can post like, ooh, I was in Nairobi last week riding a zebra, and like, oh, I was in Italy the other day sipping on Moscato, or, you know, yeah, I just got back from Japan, or whatever BS you got on your story. You know, that's what's more important than actually being financially stable. We really get off on being able to appear like we're better off than we are. And the justification, I would rather have the memories and stamps in my passport than have the money in my bank account, which would allow me to be financially stable for years to come. Let me tell you something.
You are so dumb. You are really dumb. For real.
Like, that don't work. Like, memories don't pay bills. Memories will not put your kids through college. Memories will not help you start a business. Well, they might help you start a business, but it ain't gonna put no down payment on a storefront. It's not gonna help you pay your marketing bill. We've got to be more serious about our economics, right? And you know, it's not fair. It's not fair. Let me be completely transparent. It's not fair that we live in a society where value of a person is directly correlated to your net worth. We don't have a chance playing that game, because if that's the case, that means that black lives don't matter very much, considering that a black life in Massachusetts is worth $8, right? So what is required is for us to reevaluate what our values are, but fronting and stunting to make it seem like we are more valuable by conventional methods, that we are equal by conventional methods to our white counterparts whose median net worth is $250,000 while ours is 8 in Massachusetts, is not the answer to the problem. That's just a coping mechanism. So if you're out here coping with the reality that we live in a society that equates human value to net worth, and your coping mechanism is going to Venue or Cure or any number one of these clubs and spending your down payment on your next crib on bottle service, we're never going to be able to get ahead. We're straight out of low cash. We ain't nobody got money. So let's stop pretending like we do and start having more meetings outside of the club or at the bar, and having more meetings in the living room, in the family room, in the basement, figuring out how we can put our money together to create the kind of industry, income, business that will allow us to afford the lives that we pretend to have on social media. I want y'all to get into the See Something, Say Something campaign. I remember after 9/11, everybody was calling the CIA or FBI network every time a brown person got onto a train or an airplane with a suitcase. Like, we was snitching on everybody. Like, even non-snitches, people who lived their whole life not snitching, would be like,
You don't look like you associate with any Muslims, Arabs, you know, people of terrorist descent.
But we will not call out the economic injustices, the systems that are designed to keep black people poor and white people wealthy. We won't say anything about it because we don't want to get labeled as playing the black card. You were scared out of calling bullshit. We were scared out of calling BS because we don't want to be labeled as non-team players or people who don't put the corporate interests above our own.
Whenever the master said we, he said we. That's how you can tell a house Negro.
That's some Uncle Tom's Cabin house Negro mentality. Oh, I'm not going to complain about the way things are, boss, because I likes it here. I have a dear family friend. I'm not going to put her on blast, but she is getting paid way less than she should be getting paid because she does things that are not even in the job description. She's cool with it because she doesn't want to make any waves. She doesn't want to get paid more because she wants to feel valuable to the company. If the company really valued you, they would be paying you as you should be paid.
Message.
And what makes you think that this government on the national, state, local level doesn't need oversight from the brown people? We're talking about the same group that brought you hits such as Jim Crow, gerrymandering, gentrification, lynch mobs, stop and frisk, redlining, you name it, they've done it to black people. So you think in 2020, with Donald Trump at the helm, we don't need to be a little bit more deliberate about checking to make sure that we're not catching the short end of the stick?
Child, please.
We need to be calling out everything and then double checking our facts like the cops do. Pull you over, throw you in jail, and then you have to prove your innocence. We live in a society where you could be dead right. How many innocent men have been executed on death row because they couldn't afford the proper legal representation? We need to be saying more about how broken things really are.
Anytime you live in the 20th century, 1964, and you walking around here singing, "We shall overcome," the government has failed.
See something, say something also applies to what we tell our youth. We have got to start telling them that this game is rigged. If you're raising a brown or black child, right, you need to start telling them how the system really works. The way things are the way they have been for a long time, and we're still fighting that fight. If you're not raising warriors, champions of the cause, then things are never going to get better. So you need to look into the eyes of your young people and tell them what they're up against so that they're properly prepared to do battle against the system that was designed to disadvantage them from jump.
And that's the double truth, Ruth.
So now that we've got the see something, say something, let's take our blinders off for a second, right? Because we've been running a race since the end of slavery, black people, towards the finish line being equality. And let's just see, because the proof is in the pudding. I don't want y'all to be sitting at home talking about, he always talking about the system, and the system is really not as bad. You know, he just really just fronting, you know, is he really making it worse than it really is? Let's take our blinders off and see where we stand, right? Let's stop the race right now. And if the race were to end today, where would we be? In Massachusetts, 80% of white people are homeowners. Black and Latinos, we 20 to 30%. But here's where things get really crazy. 50% of white people have a retirement account and retirement assets. Dominicanos are at 8% for retirement accounts. Black people, Caribbean and otherwise, 20% of them have retirement accounts. You know what happens when you don't have a retirement account? You either become a burden to the state or your family because you're out of money. So either the state is going to subsidize you or your family is going to subsidize you. But either way, you've become a burden. This is the reality. And when you become a burden, guess what you're not leaving? Assets or generational wealth. Retirement planning is a big deal. I mean, let's keep it real. Because brown and black people don't own the real estate in their community, they're susceptible to gentrification. Every black community in Boston is subject to gentrification. You look at the predominantly and historically black communities like Roxbury and Dorchester out here, they are a rent roll away from looking totally different. And it's not just the residents that suffer. Let's say you were one of these black families that spent generations building up a business. Shout out to Willie Hicks and Willie Hicks Jr., Hicks Auto Body over there in Roxbury. I mean, they do phenomenal work. It's an amazing business. It's generational wealth being manifested in real time. But what happens when all the residents of that neighborhood change? What happens when your client base is removed from the equation and now they have to travel twice as far as they had to travel before to continue to be your customers? We celebrate black entrepreneurship, black business, but we have to attack it more globally.
And we don't hear much news about that. Now, do we?
And your host of In the News, Great Beard of Knowledge.
Today we're talking about the death of Instagram. Instagram is officially dead.
And it's a funeral, so I'm emotional. I'm crying. I'm a mess. No. No.
Influencers are leaving in droves. If you Google it, you'll realize that Instagram has been trying to right the ship, but chances are it's over. You may remember several years ago, Instagram used to be a bustling utopia full of people sharing their ideas and building communities around individuals, ideas, brands, and businesses. The voice to the voiceless used to allow people to champion causes, and social media was a great equalizer. It allowed people with no money to be able to reach thousands, if not millions of people with a message.
Oh my God! Wow! Oh my God!
That place that Instagram used to be has been denigrated into a corporate controlled pay to play nightmare.
Y'all killing me with this. I gave y'all 30 years of my career.
Because all these corporate interests want is money. If you got enough money, you can be Insta famous. If you don't, well,
Tough break, nigga. It's always frugal.
because their algorithm is designed to curate the content that you receive. Therefore, someone else is picking what you will want to see and what you will not want to see. Therefore, your friends, relatives, colleagues, business partners, or that idea that you've been waiting for someone to implement is never going to reach your feed because Instagram is 100% focused on getting paid. It's all about the money these days. Influencers are leaving, and you might be sad because you might have built up a nice little Instagram following and you want to use it to market your business. Bad news, rap dudes. It's over. But we've been through worse. We've been through MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat. Now Instagram is going the way of the dinosaurs, and you can either go with them and go extinct, being your parents, essentially, just refusing to adapt, or you can explore other means of reaching your target demographics, other means of connecting with people, and sharing your ideas. I remember when MySpace went down.
No. No.
I thought I would never be the same. Now it's time to learn something new. And I gotta shout out my boy Rich Kimball. Consult with Rich, because he called this TikTok move a long time ago. The move is TikTok, y'all. Right now, TikTok is the highest downloaded app in the App Store across all platforms, depending on the week. And they've got over 500 million active users in no time. Trust me, you do not want to miss this wave, y'all. I'm trying to tell you now. Do not miss the wave. Do not go down with the Titanic. You have no real vested interest in Instagram. Let them ruin it. Let the corporate juggernauts run this into the ground. I'm sure everyone has noticed. Every time you post something, half the people that used to see it now. You get half the likes you used to get. Your engagement is down. Your reach is down. You're not able to penetrate new markets.
Let's get the fuck out of this country, motherfucker.
It's dead. It's dead. The algorithm is broken. Meanwhile, the algorithm over at TikTok is still organic. It's not weighted. They're not holding you back. And they have just started to introduce ads. And the ads don't even interfere with your experience on the platform. So, if I were you, y'all, considering that Instagram is dead, you plan accordingly and get the hell out of there. Get out of there while you can. And that was In the News with the Great Beard of Knowledge. I got nothing but good news and action items. I need y'all to go out and testify. I need you to go tell someone today that you are not where you want to be financially. And they don't have to be a friend or a relative. They could be a professional. They could be a financial planner. They could be a financial coach. But go tell someone that you are not where you want to be financially. Because as soon as you admit it and you can say it from your own lips that you broke and you're stressed and you're tired of being on this hamster wheel, the sooner you'll be able to put some action along with it. That's the first thing. You have to be able to say it. If we cannot accept the fact that our median net worth as Black people in Massachusetts is $8 and everyone else is right behind us. Like, don't be feeling good about yourselves.
Hide the money, y'all. There's poor people around.
No, you need to admit that the system is broken and that we have not made the progress that we should have if all things were fair and equal. The gap wouldn't exist if the system was working to benefit all people. And the sooner we can talk to somebody about where we are and what we are going to do in the future to even the scales of economic prosperity in not only Massachusetts, but the country as a whole, the sooner we're going to start closing this wealth gap. So you got to testify. First one, testify to somebody. I recommend testifying to people in your circle, like friends and family. But if you don't have no friends and family that you can trust with that kind of revelation, call a professional. Get a health coach, talk to a financial planner, pick up the phone. Don't buy anything because everybody's trying to sell you. But testify to somebody today.
Message.
Start doing some family planning. And I don't mean reunions and I don't mean cookouts. I mean, start doing some family planning. Mom, you're getting old. Do you have enough to retire on? Am I going to have to subsidize your old ass? It's a real conversation. It sounds kind of funny, but it's a real thing. All my friends are going through it. Once you hit 40, anticipate having to subsidize your parents. It's a real thing. Because once you turn 40, your parents are probably 65 or older. They're going to be done working. They're going to be starting to spend down their finite assets. And if you were listening to the numbers earlier in the show, brown and black people don't have nearly the financial resources they need to stay retired. And they're going to become a burden to their children. By you having that conversation before something breaks, before someone needs in-home care, or before they run out of money and they're talking about selling the house, you have that conversation in advance. It's a different ball game. And don't even get me started on getting into life insurance.
Oh, shit. Say it again. Say something else.
So that generational wealth is created regardless of how well they played the game of life from an economic accumulation standpoint. That life insurance is a great equalizer. All you need to do is land one blow of that life insurance and it'll change the lives of children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren potentially if applied properly.
And that's the double truth, Ruth.
And my last note on the family planning piece, there is no cavalry coming. Ain't nobody running in 2020 on let's close the wealth gap for brown and black people. So it's going to be on us. And the first place for most of us to galvanize and to gather the cavalry is going to be with your family. So start doing the planning there to assemble and accumulate the resources required to really stem the tide on this wealth gap and start accumulating and applying the resources we have to creating wealth. Number 3, the third jewel I'm dropping today is migrate. It's time to migrate, y'all. It's time to leave places that no longer serve you, right? It worked in the Harlem Renaissance, right? Worked out pretty good. People got tired of that Jim Crow stuff, being down south, being second-class citizens, and they wanted to go to a place that was a little bit more progressive with a little bit more opportunity. I don't know what makes you think that wherever you're settled, if you're not experiencing the results that you need to experience to be successful, why staying there is the right move.
Let's get the fuck out of this country, motherfucker.
Come on, people. It might be time for another migration of brown and black people to places where we can hit the ground running. I'm going to use Boston as an example because I live in Boston. Boston is a city with a lot of old money, a lot of phenomenal traditions, but cities come in 2 varieties. Either you're a city that likes to innovate, try new things, be on the cutting edge, or you're a city that just innovates as to not fall behind. New York is one of those cities that's always innovating. They're always trying something new and trying to be on the cutting edge or the cusp of what is going to be the next big thing. Boston, alternatively, is a city that only innovates not to fall behind. And if you're in one of these old money, old towns innovating just to fall behind, there's a reason why Boston was one of the last cities to integrate their schools. They didn't want to fall behind. If you're in one of these don't want to fall behind cities, don't think they're going to welcome innovation, redistributing the wealth for people of color. It's not on their agenda. So you might want to go to a place where the opportunity is a little more robust, where the soil is a little more fertile. I'm thinking Cleveland. What do you think as you're listening? Where should I be landing as you listen to this? I'm thinking Cleveland, though. Shout out to Shaker Heights. And there's a lot of reasons to move, right? It's not just because you weren't able to get ahead. One, cost of living is so high that you can't siphon off enough of your income to build a savings, let alone invest in a business. That's a major. Upward mobility may be limited. The people sitting at the top of the business you're working for may all have the last name. And that thick level of nepotism is going to prevent you from being able to ascend to the levels that you feel like you deserve to ascend to. You might be in a city that isn't embracing of innovation, and you're an innovative individual and you want to bring innovation to your city. Take it to a place that's going to really accept it, that is looking for innovation. Lastly, you might want to start hitting cities where you can intentionally create a culture and systems that will protect Black and brown owned businesses, resources, investments, and the wealth of the Black and brown people who occupy these pockets of America. You might want to go to one of those places where you can really start laying down that foundation or become a part of the fabric of such a community. But to suffer in a place that really doesn't have your best interests at heart simply because you haven't lived somewhere else is a recipe for producing more of the same $8 net worth reality.
Let me hear you say, that ain't right.
So explore that migration piece. Lastly, and shout out to Brother Polite. He's a cat that's always dropping some serious knowledge. Share the startup costs. Now, all of us have these big dreams of buying our mama a house and putting our boys on. And once we get on, everybody gonna have Ferraris. If they aren't willing to defray the startup costs with a few dollars, and I don't mean they have to come to the table with thousands. If you got $50, $20, a couple nickels at the beginning of your business enterprise, or as you're trying to start out and make something, and you plan on taking care of them on the back end, you need to be getting that investment up front, because that's going to increase the likelihood of your success. If you're able to take on a few $100s because the people that you would take care of anyway once you got on are willing to kick in a few bucks, it increases your likelihood of success. In a pay-for-play environment like Instagram, a few $100s of marketing goes a long freaking way. Oh my goodness, it goes a long way. So poll your family that you talking about. Yeah, what's we on, man? I'm going to buy everybody a mansion. Yeah, cool. That sounds great. But right now, I'm trying to get my business up and running. I'm trying to get some publicity. I'm trying to increase my marketing budget. Who's got a few dollars for me? If they ain't got no dollars for you, they ain't got no nickels, nothing that jingles. That's one less house you need to buy. That's one less Ferrari you need to be going to the dealership to cop. That's money that you don't need to spend because the people in your universe who you plan to take care of are not interested in investing in your vision up front. So they don't get to experience the rewards on the back end.
And that's the double truth, Ruth.
So use that as a separator. This is the last jewel I'm going to drop. Defray your startup costs by bringing in the people who you want to take care of on the back end up front. Bring them in early. And with that said, we're going to get right into one of my favorite segments of the show, Before You Quit Your Job.
And I hate my manager. If he yell at me tomorrow, he gonna have to manage to get to the hospital because I'm beating boy ass. This job is beneath me.
Don't wait till you stop working to start leveraging your income.
Message.
While you're working, your life is probably going to be more stable than it will be once you leave the plantation, start your own business enterprise or whatever you have planned after you leave your 9-to-5 making other people wealthy. You got to leverage your income while you're there. I see a lot of people quit their jobs and then start working on their website. They quit their job and then they start interviewing somebody who's going to help them with their marketing. They quit their job and then they start printing business cards after they've already quit their job.
That boy is good.
You need to be taking a portion of your income and using it to pay for all that infrastructure stuff before you quit your job, right? Because once you quit your job, your financial resources, your operating budget is all fixed at that point. It's all fixed. And once it's fixed, it gets real dicey because once you run out of it, you can't unfix it.
Let me tell you about my money plan.
So while you're working, lay all that foundation stuff out and pay for it. Let me introduce you to something called Fiverr. On Fiverr, you can get your logo made for next to no dollars. I mean, less than $25 if you want. You can have some marketing done for, $10, $20. You can do all of this stuff for what you got in your pocket before you quit your job. And that way, when you launch your business, instead of it being a very hectic, stressful period of time where you're rushing around trying to get all your collateral together, it's paid for. So when you do leave your job, you can launch right away.
Ooh, boy, it's hard to be woke. It's hard to be woke.
Before you quit your job, start leveraging your income to start putting into place the infrastructure for your business. Do not leave your job and then try to get that stuff together like I always say. Every day off the plantation costs money, and you need to protect your operating budget at all costs. So before you quit your job, start leveraging that income.
Message!
Not just any freedom trail, the financial freedom trail. And with that said, we're going to slide right into the financial freedom trail. On this episode, the financial freedom trail, we're talking about budgeting. And with budgeting, consistency is key. What is a budget? A budget is stagnant. It's a piece of paper. It tells you how much you can spend on this and how much you should spend on that. But that's it. It's not a living, breathing document most of the time. It's just something that gives you an idea of how much you're spending. How the hell is a list of things you spend money on going to help you become more financially stable? It doesn't, unless you're consistently going to your budget every week. If you're not referring to your budget at the end of every week and filling in those squares on your budget to indicate how much you spent here and how much you spent there, it's not going to work. That budget will not work itself. And I'm going to tell you a little secret. Having been a financial planner for years, sitting in hundreds of living rooms, nobody off the top of their head has an operational budget. Like 99% of people do not have a functioning budget because you don't take into account the little things. I mean, the little things. For example, cheerleading outfits. I forgot how much those cost. I should have factored that in. Every Thursday we go out for drinks, me and the coworkers. You don't factor that in. Little Timmy needs basketball sneakers. He's got basketball tryouts next week. Never factor that stuff in. So your budget at best is a flimsy representation of how money actually moves through your household.
Child, please.
So if you make it a habit of every week documenting how much you're spending, by the end of a month, you'll have a much better idea of how money moves through your household. But it requires weekly maintenance, weekly updates, weekly addressing how much you're spending every week. And if you do this over the course of a month, I promise you, not only will you have a better understanding of how money moves through your household, but you'll be able to accurately forecast and not get to the end of every month surprised by how little money you have at the end of the month. Every week, go to the budget and see how much you're really spending. You want stats for sports? ESPN is going to give you the stats. You want to know how you're doing at your job? Your boss is going to tell you. You want to know how your health is? Your doctor's going to tell you. No one else other than you is going to be keeping track of your financial health. So you need to be real serious and real deliberate about that. With that said, I'm going to bring this episode to a close. I appreciate you for rocking with me once again. A few shout outs. I want to shout out Segun and the Black Economic Council of Massachusetts. They are walking that walk and talking that talk, baby, big time, because their focus is helping Black-owned businesses be more efficient in the communities in which they operate. So shout out to you, Segun. I'm going to put a link to the website in the description, but kudos to you. It's organizations like BECMA and people like Segun and the Greenwood Collective, which make being in a city that has so much history of disadvantaging the many to benefit the few, it gives me hope that a place like this can change. Lastly, please, if you're listening to this, I get paid in the form of likes, follows, and subscriptions. Please, and it costs you nothing. I'm not looking for money. I'm just looking to reach the maximum number of people I can. My goal is to help as many people as I can leave the plantation on the financial freedom trail to real economic freedom and prosperity for generations to come, so that our children and our children's children never have to work towards making someone else wealthy and they can pursue their dreams, really making this country great for the very first time. All that said, I am your host, the Great Beard of Knowledge. Thanks again for rocking with me, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace.